Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine, like, discovering a lost piece of some epic tale, a 4,400-year-old fragmented Sumerian myth suddenly coming to life.
Yeah.
That's really the treasure we're diving into today with this tablet, Ni 12501. It's got this incredible story about the Sumerian storm god Ishkur and a surprisingly cunning hero, Fox.
And what's truly, astonishing about this tablet isn't just the narrative, the story itself, but its own journey.
Hmm.
How we even got to read it.
Right.
It was found way back in the 19th century, but then it just sat there, largely untranslated for over 100 years.
Wow.
Until Dr. Jana Matuszak's recent study finally kind of unlocked its secrets. Gives us a completely fresh look into this ancient worldview.
So this deep dive, we're going to unpack this amazing story, right? Explore what it tells us about what Sumerians believed and how these, key themes echo through Mesopotamian literature for thousands of years.
Exactly. It's really about getting you, the listener, sort of a shortcut to being really well informed on a truly fascinating piece of ancient knowledge.
That's a great way to put it. So let's set the scene. Ancient Sumer, maybe around 2400 BCE. We're talking about a bunch of city-states, right? Politically separate, each with its own main god. Can you paint that picture a bit more?
Sure. So picture Sumer, as this collection of independent city-states, politically autonomous, like you said. Each one had its patron deity, like Enlil in Nippur, which is actually where this tablet was found.
Okay.
But crucially, they shared this remarkably consistent cultural fabric. Same language, same cuneiform writing system, a common belief system.
So even with different rulers, they felt culturally connected.
Very much so. I mean, there were local variations, sure, but the big gods were known everywhere. And cities that were neighbors, like Nippur and Abeb, they had these interlinked pantheons. That probably explains why you find a deity like Ishtar, who seems more connected to the Adab region, showing up in this text from Nippur.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, and the tablet itself, Ni 12501, sounds like it has its own story.
Oh, it absolutely does. So it dates to the early dynastic III period, around 2400 BCE, dug up in Nippur in the 19th century. What we have now is actually pretty big, 13.7 by 12.2 centimeters.
Yeah.
And it's thick. It suggests the original tablet was, massive, maybe over 200 lines long.
Huge, but we only have a fraction.
Yeah, less than a third is preserved, which, explains some of the gaps and why it was maybe tricky to figure out.
And you mentioned it was hard to study for a long time. Something about a book cover.
Right. This is a great little detail.
Yeah.
So the famous Sumerologist, Samuel Noah Kramer, actually used a picture of it on the dust jacket of one of his books back in 1956.
Okay.
But he didn't include its museum number. So for decades, scholars saw this image, knew it existed, but couldn't easily find the actual tablet in the collections to study it.
Oh, that must have been maddening. You see this potentially crucial text, but you can't locate it.
Exactly. Imagine being a researcher back then. It's a real testament to the sometimes winding path these ancient objects take before we can fully understand them.
So despite being incomplete, the quality is good.
Oh yeah, very high literary quality. It's written in what scholars call pure Nippur script, a very specific characteristic style from that city.
Mm-hmm.
It uses phonetic spellings, which can help with pronunciation, and these sophisticated literary devices, like frequent repetitions, almost like hymns, these long lists praising something.
Like poetic lists?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
And this technique where they'll use an epithet, like the Lord, and then immediately follow it with the actual name Ishkur, it shows real literary craft.
Okay, let's get to the story itself. This 4,400-year-old myth. What happens? How does it kick off?
Well, it opens beautifully, actually, with this vivid picture of, like, total prosperity. You've got glistening waters, rivers, canals just teeming with fish. They even name specific types, suhur carps and ashib carps.
Smells slosh.
And then you hear about Ishkur's cows, multicolored cows, white like birds, brown like wood, black like coal reed. It really paints this picture of an idyllic, fertile world.
Wow, okay. A perfect world, but obviously something goes wrong.
Right, the tranquility gets completely shattered. Ishkur, the storm god, the one responsible for rain and fertility. He and his cows are captured. They're taken down and held captive in the Kur. That's the Sumerian netherworld.
The underworld. Oh, wow. And the consequences are bad.
The text really suggests they're devastating. It mentions children being born, but then immediately being carried off by the Kur.
Yikes.
Which strongly implies, drought, famine, starvation up in the world of the living because the god responsible for abundance is gone.
That's quite ironic, isn't it? A storm god vanishing causes drought, especially in southern Iraq where, like you said, they mostly use river irrigation, not rain.
It is ironic, and it's a really key point. Southern Mesopotamia, Sumer, relied on the Tigris and Euphrates, on irrigation canals, which is probably why their storm god Ishkur was never quite as, let's say, central as storm gods in places like Syria or Anatolia where rain was crucial for farming.
Makes sense.
But here, in this myth, Ni 12501, Ishkur is the main character. It's the only real narrative we have where he's the star, so it's unique.
So, Ishkur's trapped in the underworld, disaster is striking. How do the other gods react? What do they do?
Well, Enlil steps up. He's the acting head of the pantheon, king of the gods. He calls the divine assembly together. His authority is pretty clear. He basically asks the other gods, okay, who's going to go get Ishkur back?
A direct challenge.
Yeah.
So who answers? Is it one of the big, powerful gods?
And this is where it gets surprising. None of the major gods step forward. It's silence. Then, out of nowhere, only Fox volunteers.
Fox, like the animal.
The animal, yeah. Fox volunteers for this incredibly dangerous mission to the netherworld. This immediately sets up that whole unlikely hero idea we see in so many myths.
Wow. Okay, so Fox, this, well, presumably smaller, maybe less powerful creature, volunteers to go to the land of no return. How does he even plan to get in and survive?
He shows his cleverness right away. As soon as he gets to the Kur, he's offered food and drink.
Which is the big test, right? Don't eat the food of the dead.
Exactly. That's the rule. You eat or drink down there, you can't come back. But Fox, he accepts the food and drink.
He accepts it, but...
He accepts it, but he doesn't consume it. He secretly hides it in his, the text says receptacle, maybe like a bag or just, cheek pouches.
Oh, okay, that's smart.
It immediately shows his cunning. He knows the rules, and he's already figured out a loophole.
That's such a great setup. So does he manage to find Ishkur? Does he rescue him?
And that's where the tablet breaks off.
Oh no, seriously?
Seriously. It just stops. We're left hanging. We don't know if Fox succeeds in finding Ishkur or getting him out.
Fragmentary texts. So frustrating.
Tell me about it. It's one of the great, challenges and also excitements of this kind of work. You piece together what you can.
Okay, well, that's a killer cliffhanger. But before we look at the bigger picture, the themes, there was another detail you mentioned, Ishbe, a goddess.
Right, Ishbe. Her role was pretty obscure before this text. Here, someone we don't know who calls her my mother, and she's described as a beautiful person who used to bake just enormous amounts of bread, like using 240 liters of flour.
Wow. So another link to that lost abundance theme.
Exactly. It highlights her female gender, which wasn't clear before, and ties her directly to that idea of prosperity that vanished when Ishkur was captured. She also pops up in another text from around the same time, the Barton Cylinder, where she's shown as being very perceptive and locking doors, maybe some kind of guardian role. It adds another layer to her.
Fascinating. Okay, so let's broaden out. Let's trace these threads, these motifs, through other Mesopotamian myths, starting with this idea of the disappearing deity. How common is that?
Well, the idea of gods dying or disappearing and then returning is definitely there. You see it most famously with Inanna's Descent or with Dumuzi, her lover.
Right.
But having a storm god specifically captured in the netherworld, that's unique to this text for Sumer. We don't see that elsewhere. And the consequences are really stark, just like in those other myths. The text implies procreation stops, children are lost. It definitely echoes later myths, like the big Babylonian version of Ishtar's Descent, where all life, all reproduction, grinds to a halt when she's gone.
And you mentioned maybe some parallels further afield, like Anatolia, though maybe uncertain.
Yeah, there are these interesting, though admittedly distant and much later, parallels with Hittite myths from Anatolia, like the story of Telpinu, another storm god. He gets angry and vanishes, and the result is drought, hunger, nothing grows, nothing reproduces. Total chaos.
Okay.
And in those stories, often it's a really small creature like a bee that finds the god against all odds. So you see that similar pattern. Disappearing god, crisis, unlikely rescuer. But again, separated by, 1,000 years and a lot of geography. So suggestive, but not a direct link.
Got it. Okay, what about the next theme? The helpless gods and dauntless heroes. Fox stepping up when the big gods won't. That sounds familiar.
Oh, absolutely. This is a really common structure in Mesopotamian heroic tales. You often have a crisis where the main gods, the powerful ones, are just stumped, speechless, unable to act.
So they need a champion.
Exactly. They need someone to step up and do the impossible. Fox volunteering here fits that mold perfectly. His role is really comparable to, say, Ninurta fighting the Anzu bird, or Marduk taking on Tiamat in the Enuma Eliho. These heroes rise to the occasion when the established powers can't or won't.
And do those heroes usually get rewarded? Does that raise the question of what Fox might have gotten?
It absolutely does. Those other heroes, Ninurta, Marduk, they often demand or receive significant rewards, status, temples, power. So if the tablet continued, it's very possible we would have seen Fox angling for some kind of reward for rescuing Ishkur. But alas.
The break again. Okay, let's move to navigating the underworld, the land of no return. Fox's trick with the food seems really key here.
Crucial. The Mesopotamian netherworld, the Kur, is deadly serious about its rules. Land of no return isn't just a poetic name. And the number one rule, as we discussed, is don't eat or drink anything they offer you. If you do, you belong to the Kur forever. Or you die.
So Fox's move accepting but hiding it is incredibly clever.
Exceptionally clever. You can compare him to other figures, like Enkidu in the Epic of Gilgamesh. He goes down to retrieve something for Gilgamesh, gets specific instructions on how to behave, ignores them, does things like wear clean clothes and anoint himself, and gets trapped.
Oops.
Yeah. Or Adapa, the sage, who goes up to heaven and is offered the food and water of immortality, but his god Ea tricked him into thinking it was the food of death, so he refuses it and loses his chance at eternal life.
So Adapa refuses the good stuff, and Enkidu breaks the rules.
And Fox finds the loophole. He appears to comply with the underworld's hospitality, avoiding offense, but secretly bypasses the fatal rule by not actually consuming the food. It's brilliant trickery.
And you mentioned this might even connect to how real foxes behave.
It's quite possible.
Yeah.
Real foxes are known for caching food, burying it to eat later. They also dig dens, living underground. So this behavior might have inspired the mythological portrayal of Fox as this kind of liminal figure, someone who can cross boundaries, who's comfortable both above ground and below, who can navigate that dangerous threshold to the netherworld.
That's a fantastic connection. Okay, we've looked at the motifs, but maybe the most interesting thing Not 12501 does is shed light on this relationship between the head god Enlil and Fox. You said this is our first look at them interacting.
Yes, and this is where it gets really interesting for understanding the long history of Mesopotamian literature. This tablet gives us the earliest evidence, by far, of Enlil and Fox interacting, and establishes Fox as this trickster figure in relation to Enlil right from the start.
So it sets up this dynamic that lasts for millennia. What does that dynamic look like in later texts?
Well, it's complex and often quite funny. You have later proverbs that literally say Fox lies to Enlil. The connection is explicit. In fact, the cuneiform sign for Fox, cow, is the same sign used to mean lie or trick. So his very name implies deception.
Wow, okay. So Fox is the trickster. Does he ever actually outsmart Enlil, the king of the gods?
It seems not. That's the fascinating pattern across like 2,000 years of texts featuring them. Fox is ambitious, yes.
Yeah.
There's one story where he actually demands bull's horns from Enlil horns being a symbol of divinity. He wants to be like a god.
Bold move.
Very bold. And Enlil, perhaps surprisingly, grants his wish. But then when it rains, Fox can't get into his den because the horns are too big.
Ah, foiled by his own ambition.
Exactly. He has to go back to Enlil, tail between his legs, literally, and ask for the horns to be removed. It shows Enlil subtly outsmarting him, letting Fox's own hubris be his downfall.
Any other examples?
There's another great one called The Fox and Enlil as Merchant. Enlil disguises himself as a merchant, a profession sometimes seen as less than honest back then.
Okay.
And in this guise, Enlil again manages to trick and outfox the fox. So the consistent theme is Fox tries his tricks, but he never ultimately fools Enlil. Enlil always comes out on top.
Okay, so if Enlil is never successfully tricked by Fox in all these later stories, what does that imply about our myth, Ni 12501, where Enlil asks Fox to rescue Ishkur?
It strongly suggests, I think, that Fox's mission must have succeeded.
Because Enlil wouldn't have sent him if he thought Fox would fail or betray him, or Enlil would have ensured success.
Precisely. Given Enlil's clear involvement and his consistent portrayal as the superior intellect in this relationship over centuries, the odds are very high that, in the lost part of the story, Fox successfully completed the task Enlil set for him. And it's also worth remembering many of these Enlil-Fox stories, including Ni 12501, were found in Nippur, Enlil's main city. They likely reflect local traditions where Enlil's wisdom and authority even over a trickster like Fox, were emphasized.
That ties it all together nicely. So just to recap then, this incredibly old fragmented tablet, Ni 12501, it gives us this unique story, Ishkor trapped, Fox the unlikely hero.
Yeah, a really captivating narrative.
And it opens this window into Sumerian mythology, showing how even these broken pieces reveal these enduring themes: abundance, crisis, heroism, trickery that just echo down through Mesopotamian culture for ages.
Absolutely. And what it really gives us, beyond just the story, is insight into how these ancient people grappled with big ideas. Cosmic order, chaos, the role of the gods, the potential for even the small and cunning to make a difference. These narrative archetypes are just so deeply ingrained.
So thinking about what this means for us,
Mhm.
maybe the question for you, the listener, is this. We don't know how Fox's story ended for sure, but this ancient tale kind of invites you to think. What seemingly impossible tasks are you maybe willing to take on?
And what hidden cunning, what cleverness might you need to find within yourself to actually achieve those goals?